Hi, welcome to a new video. This is going to be the first video of my kind of autumn starter pack. I was very much inspired by Darling Dazzy. Always watch her videos to kind of create a little base of content that you can always refer back to every year for recommendations and inspiration of what to do in autumn and what to watch and what to read. Today I bring you my autumn TBR and to be watched. I have faux fireplace behind me, a warm tea with me, and the starts of some autumn decoration behind me. So I'm very much happy to be starting this. I also have a list right in front of me on my computer and a whole bunch of books here on the table beside me. So let's get into it. The light may change a bit as it's the end of the day, and I think there's a bit of sun coming in and out of the clouds, and hopefully that will just kind of help with the aesthetic and not ruin it. But let's start with books. First of all, I have 3 pre-orders that I really want to shout out. There are a couple of other books that I know will be coming in boxes or that I may be interested in, but these are 3 main ones that are coming out in like October, November, starting with a very anticipated, many people will be talking about this, the first adult book from this author, and that is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, which is about 2 outcasts that find themselves at the center of a world-altering change in the start of this riveting epic fantasy series by Cassandra Clare. Apparently it follows Kel, an orphan, and Lancaster, a Ashkar, which is a small community who still possess magical abilities. Cal was stolen from the life he knew to become a sword catcher, which is the body double of a royal heir, in this case Prince Connor Aurelian. So he has been raised side by side with this prince, and he knows that his role is to basically just die for this prince. But apparently, after a failed assassination, they're drawn together into this web of mysteries and conspiracies, and we'll have to see what goes on. I am intrigued, and obviously I'm gonna read it. Now, moving on to the second pre-order, I have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first YA romance, and it's about 2 rival chess players. I don't want to know much more than that. I have enjoyed all of Ali Hazelwood's books, and I just assume it's going to be a fun time. It's obviously about chess, which I find interesting in the way that I never found this interesting before. So we'll see how that goes. As any of her books, she includes some interesting themes and kind of worlds that I haven't really encountered before. Even though it's set not in a fantasy world, but in real life. So I'm curious to read more about a romance that involves chess in some way or another. But now on to the third pre-order. We have Curious Tides by Pascale Lacelle. I think that's how that's pronounced. It's 9th House meets A Deadly Education in this gorgeous dark academia fantasy following a teen mage who must unravel the truth behind the secret society that may have been involved in her classmates' deaths. 9th House and Deadly Education are both dark academia books with fantastic elements included. In this case, case, but it sounds quite intriguing. I know it's near the sea, so apart from having dark academia vibes, it also has that kind of dark, choppy seas, I assume, atmosphere, a lot of sea air and creepy things going around. I'm excited. Determined to find the truth behind the drownings and the cult-like secret society she's convinced her classmates were involved in, Emery is faced with even more questions when the supposedly drowned students start washing ashore alive, only for them each immediately to die horrible magical deaths. And she enlists the help of Baz, a boy already well versed in the deadly nature of darker magic, whose sister happened to be one of the drowned students and Emery's best friend. That's what I had read before and really spiked my interest. So I am definitely going to be reading this the moment it comes out. Now onto my cozy fantasy picks. For this autumn, I have Enchanted to Meet You by Meg Cabot. This technically comes out on September 5th. Meg Cabot hasn't been putting that much out there recently. Obviously, she's quite famous for her Princess Diaries books, which I love. I mean, her humor in those books and her relatability, it's just amazing. I have read and reread them multiple times. And so, now she's coming out with a witchy rom-com. I definitely needed to pick that up. It's about a plus-sized witch who must team up with a handsome stranger to help protect her village from an otherworldly force. But will she be able to protect her heart? I mean, it sounds... I actually have read a series that sounds pretty similar to this, and they were just a good time, you know, fun. So I'm excited to get to this one from Meg Cabot because, let's be honest, if she's going to be writing this as she wrote the Princess Diaries, I am there. 100%. We then have The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Breanne Randall, I think. So this is another cozy fantasy, and it's compared to Practical Magic and Gilmore Girls. Those are two buzzwords for autumn. So if you're comparing this book to these two together, I have to read it. This comes out September 19. And actually, I hadn't really realized that these were technically not out yet. Oh, suddenly it's very dark. So this book is about Sadie. She has a twin brother, and she has always known that with her magic come 4 heartbreaks. She has gone through her first love heartbreak, which was Jake McNeely, and she's now back in town with her grandmother that was just diagnosed with cancer. And so her twin brother comes home, and with that a lot of family secrets start coming out, and also this first heartbreak Jake McNeely returns to town, and I assume there's gonna be maybe a second chance romance going on there. Basically, everything starts to unravel on multiple sides of her life, and we're gonna see how she fares. But yeah, it sounds good. Oh, and it says, as feelings for Jake begin to rekindle and her grandmother growing sicker by the day, Sadie faces the last of her heartbreaks, and she has to decide, is love more important than magic? I'm not sure how that's going to really play, what this heartbreak thing has to do with her magic exactly, but I'm intrigued to find out. So yeah, the moment, again, it comes out, I will definitely be reading this. At the end here it says, readers who love the magic of the peculiar sadness of lemon cake and the sense of community found in the very secret society of irregular witches will enjoy this warm, witchy novel. I mean, if it's talking about the very secret society of irregular witches, you have to know that I am the first in line to get this book. In terms of other cozy fantasies that I want to read, we have In the Company of Witches, which follows a woman that has just, I think, lost her husband, and she's living and working with her aunts in their B&B, and one day there's a murder, and I think her aunts are the two suspects. She decides to figure out who actually murdered this person because her aunts are in danger, you know, they're about to be booked for murder, and she definitely doesn't want that. They're also all witches, and I think the main character can see ghosts. I think one of the aunts is very good with like plants and nature, and the other one with food and baking. It sounds just cozy and amazing. It's one of the classic cozy mysteries that you see a lot of people talking about, so I definitely wanted to check that out. I also have The House Witch, which follows I think a magician or wizard. He just got a job in the kitchens of this castle, and the idea is that he will keep his magic secret, but it definitely doesn't go that way. That's really all I know about it. I know it's cozy, there's probably some shenanigans going on, and this one is definitely fantasy. While the other one has a bit of fantasy, but it's set in the real world, this one is, I think, a high fantasy. There's also The Bookshop and the Barbarian. I know is about some sort of witch that has powers. She just opened this bookshop, but she needs a kind of bodyguard for the bookshop for some reason. I don't know if it's for her, for the bookshop, what is going on. But there's a kind of high lady of this kingdom that is definitely evil, and so the main character contracts a barbarian to help her out and protect her and the shop, I guess, and we just follow their romance and them trying to take down this evil person. Another cozy fantasy that I'm excited to sink my teeth into. But now, moving on to romance fantasy, can start with Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper, which is set to be chilling adventures of Sabrina meets the L Word. I mean, that doesn't really say much for me, but maybe it does for us, so I'm mentioning it. It follows Emmy Harlow, who's not a very powerful witch because she hasn't been back home in quite a few years. But because there's a tournament going to be starting in her hometown, and it's very traditional, she ends up being pulled back to the town, I think, to participate. But then she discovers that her best friend that still lives back home was in a relationship with the guy that was also dating someone else that she just met. And so I think there's going to be a revenge tale there, and a romance as well with one of these women that was dating this guy. So I'm intrigued to see how that goes. This is a very classic witchy romance that has been quite popular in the recent years. So I'm expecting decent things. So now talking about a very exciting new book, which is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. This has been talked about quite a bit. It has already 3.75 stars on Goodreads, and it says true love is at stake in this charming debut romance comedy. I read a few reviews that said that it was basically a romance comedy in book form. So I'm very excited to read this. It's about a out-of-work artist that lives in Chicago, and she is looking for a place to live. And she finds this kind of way too good to be true apartment with one roommate, which she then discovers he's a vampire. And I know there's going to be a romance. Super exciting. And it does say true love is at stake. So it's not going to be just super funny. Very excited to get to this book. We then have Masters of Death by Olivie Blake, which I'm not sure should be categorized as romance fantasy. I know there is a romance in it, but I'm just not sure what the ratios are. This is actually the first physical book that I'm going to be showing today, because I do have the Waterstone Special Edition, and I'm quite excited to get to this. This is about a ghost-infested mansion, a small group of supernatural beings, and an unlikely quest. I know that the main character, Viola Merrick, is a estate agent and a vampire, but the house she's trying to sell is haunted, so she gets a guy to fix that. And the medium that she hires is Fox Demora, who is most definitely a fraud, but he does have his uses because he's the godson of death. I'm not sure how this is going to play into the whole thing. They both get involved in a quest with a few other characters, because as you can see, there are 4 characters on this side and another 3 characters on this side of the book. So there's definitely a lot of characters in this book. I'm very intrigued about this story. I've heard quite amazing things. I think it's a bit of a comedy. There's definitely a romance as well. I think it's going to be a bit dark. So let's put that away. Super excited to get to that. I'm going to say excited a whole bunch in this video. Just kind of get used to it. Tea break? Okay, now moving on to YA fantasy. I have Spellbound by F.T. Lukens. This is about magical rivals, deadly secrets, and an inconvenient crush. What could possibly go wrong? The main character of this book wants to gain access to the magical world, but he doesn't have any magic, so he gets a job as an apprentice to a powerful sorceress. But he also has a illegal device called Spellbinder, which he tries to keep hidden, but unfortunately the authorities get wind of what's going on with this device and they go for the sorceress and not him, which is a problem because she's innocent. So he enlists the help of another apprentice. Yeah, and they have to team up to save this sorceress or face losing their magic forever. So I'm intrigued to read it. I know it's going to be a romance. There's some shenanigans going on. Exciting. After that, I have The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. I've had this book for a year or so, and I've put this book in all of my TBRs since I got it, and I haven't yet read it, which is a big disappointment to me. So I guess I'm gonna put it on another one. This autumn is gonna be the time I'm gonna read this V. Schwab book. I'm gonna read this. The Near Witch is only an old story told to frighten children. If the wind calls at night, you must not listen. These are the truths that Lexi has heard her whole life. But when an actual stranger, a boy who seems to fade like smoke, appears outside her home on the moor at night, she knows that at least one of these things is no longer true. The next night, the children of Near start disappearing from their beds, and the mysterious boy falls under suspicion. I assume he's not the one that's actually doing it, and all of the sayings are true. And so the Near Witch is most definitely not an old story told to frighten children, but an actual witch. So yeah, very intrigued. And the last YA fantasy book is Immortality, a Love Story, which is the following book to Anatomy, a Love Story, which I've read last year. This came out in February, and I've been waiting to read it in autumn. I can't really tell you about this book as it's a sequel, but the first one follows Hazel. She always wanted to be an anatomy student and a surgeon, but obviously women can't be any of those things. So she one day disguises herself as a man to go to a lecture and then consequently some classes. And she also meets Jack, but she's discovered as being a girl disguising as a boy, and the teacher kind of gives her an ultimatum. He'll train her if she passes this exam that she was going to classes for, but without going to classes. So if she's better than all of the male students in this class, he will then train her. There is a magical element to it, and I'm very excited to read the second one because the end of the first had a few loose ends that I want to find out what happens. Now let's get on to adult fantasy. I have Babel by R.F. Kuang, which came out last year and everyone read it then, but I just wasn't really in the mindset for this book. So I've been saving it for this year. I hope I'll read it. I am excited to read it though. And obviously a lot of people know what this is about, but I shall give you a synopsis either way. An act of translation is always an act of betrayal. Oxford, 1836. The city of dreaming spires. It is the center of all knowledge and progress in the world, and at its heart is Babel, Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, the tower from which all of the power of the empire flows. Orphaned in Canton and brought to England by a mysterious guardian, Robin Swift thought Babel a paradise until it became a prison. But can a student stand against an empire? Moving on. We have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I haven't read Frankenstein yet. I really want to get to it. I have a very cute secondhand edition. Definitely looks very dark academia. Do I need to say what this is about? Frankenstein is a young, idealistic student of natural philosophy who, finding the secret of giving life to matter, creates a living being. The monstrous creation, thought tender-hearted and gentle in nature, inspires fear in those who meet him and must hide away from society. Increasingly lonely and isolated, the monster becomes embittered and cruel, taking a hideous revenge on his creator. In a dramatic denouement in which Frankenstein pursues his creation to the Arctic in order to destroy him, Mary Shelley reveals the terrifying consequences of playing God. I was not expecting that. That is the most surprising thing of this synopsis I just read. I mean, I knew it was about people and nature and society, but I definitely was not expecting the monster to have gone to the Arctic. I'll have to read it to find out, right? And finally, I have The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, which is a horrifying tale of mystery, sickening madness, and buried bodies by the master of the macabre. Actually, there's a few short stories in here. The Telltale Heart, The Fall of House of Usher, and The Cask of Amontillado. Excited! And finally for the books, I have graphic novels, and one that isn't really a graphic novel, and I should probably start with that. And that is The Sister Who Ate Her Brothers and Other Gruesome Tales by Jen Campbell, which obviously she's a YouTuber, very well known. She's pretty amazing. I've read some of her books before, and she came out with this, I think, 2 years ago, and I've been wanting to get it and read it since then. I got it last year for Christmas, so this is the perfect time to read it. It's an illustrated book inspired by gruesome tales from around the world. So I'm quite interested to see it, and the illustrations are beautiful. The book is illustrated by Adam de Souza. This is high up on my list. But then I have two other graphic novels. First is The OK Witch by Emma Steinkellner about a 13-year-old. She loves all things witchy, and she discovers she's actually a witch. And I think she lives with her aunts, and it's her dealing with that. Heard that it's very cute, very heartwarming, and just perfect for autumn. We then have Snapdragon by Kat Lee, and at the front it says you can find friends in the strangest places. I think Snap's town has a witch, at least that's the rumor. In reality, Jax is just a croc-wearing, internet-savvy old lady who sells the skeletons of roadkill online. It's creepy, sure, but Snap thinks it's kind of cool too. Snap needs a favor from this old woman, so she begins helping Jax with her strange work. As she gets to know her and realizes that Jax may in fact have real magic and an unlikely connection to Snap's family past. Exciting? The imagery is quite autumnal and a bit creepy, so I really want to get to it. And yeah, that's the end of all the books I want to read in autumn. It's definitely way too dark, so I'm gonna stop today here, and then tomorrow I'll continue with the TV shows and movies that I want to watch. So we're now moving into the film and TV series section of this video, when I share with you what I want to be watching in the next few months. I'm gonna start with TV series as I find that more exciting. I have just started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as I had never watched it before. In case you don't know, this follows Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's only one Vampire Slayer at any point in time. When the Vampire Slayer dies, another one is born or comes into their inheritance as a Vampire Slayer. They always come into their inheritance in their teens, when they're fit to fight vampires and fight the mystical world. And in this case, we're following Buffy as she is a classic American teenager, blonde, beautiful, used to be part of the popular crowd, but then and this is all before the series actually starts, but then she lights up on fire her school gym, and her parents divorce, and so her mom takes her to a small town in the middle of nowhere to restart their life. But obviously, she's still the Vampire Slayer. Even though she destroyed her old school, she is still having to fight vampires every day, now in a new town. What she didn't know is that they moved to this tiny town that is actually an epicenter of all of this mystical energy. Obviously. So we just follow her as she's dealing with everyday life stuff of being a teenager. You know, having crushes and making friends and having good grades at school, but also she's fighting vampires by night in a place where there's a lot of vampires and a lot of other magical creatures as well. I mean, it's a fun time. It's not a great series. The story is not amazing, but it's getting better. I'm having fun. I like the characters, and it's a classic, a staple in every nerd's upbringing, so I thought I had to give it a go. I then would like to rewatch Wednesday. Wednesday last year was great. It wasn't amazing, but it was one of those classic Netflix teenage shows that you just consume all basically in one go. Like so many others that I've just put on and watched all the way throughout and had the best time. It's perfect for autumn and Halloween, so I definitely want to rewatch Wednesday. And I also want to rewatch Over the Garden Wall, because I first watched it 5 years ago, I think, and I haven't rewatched it since. So this is the year that I'm rewatching Over the Garden Wall. It follows two half-brothers that get lost in the woods, and they go on a quest to find this witch that will tell them how to make it home. But on their way to this witch, They get involved in all sorts of scenarios. They find friends and they have to overcome challenges. It's a cozy, nice time. It's the most autumnal thing you've ever seen in your life. It's amazing. I want to rewatch Wednesday and I want to rewatch Over the Garden Wall. I also have X-Files to finish, but I'm really not enjoying the kind of core storyline. I love the kind of one-off episodes where you follow a mystery, but I don't love the storyline that's always going on. You know, you have a few episodes where it heats up and then it goes back into being like a secondary storyline. But yeah, I love the mystery of the day episodes. So I'm not sure if I'm going to continue or not. I still have to think on it and see what my mood is going to be. I always rewatch parts of Gilmore Girls in autumn either way. So I'm also going to be doing that. But now moving on to 2 animation series that I want to watch from scratch. First one being Hilda, which is inspired by a graphic novel of the same name. And it follows this girl that used to live with her mom in the woods and have now moved on to a town. And she's making friends. She's a super adventurous girl that just loves to be in nature and run around and meet magical creatures and whatever. And she does all of that with her new friends. So yeah, it sounds great. And it does remind me of Over the Garden Wall. So I'm expecting it to be good. The other series I want to watch is Scooby-Doo. Very much inspired by Darlene Dasley. She loves Scooby-Doo, and I do remember it being on the TV when I was a child, but I never watched it. So I really want to know what it's all about. I know it's funky, I know it's quirky and just a bit weird, but I want to watch it. I want to see what I think of it. I know it's the sort of thing that you'll love more if you watched it as a kid. I know it follows a group of quirky friends that go on adventures. Their Great Dane dog that talks, Scooby-Doo. I know that there's Shaggy, that is, I guess, Scooby-Doo's best friend. They are an iconic, ridiculous duo that always get into messes. That's all I know. There's shenanigans and antics and missteps and all sorts of crazy things happening that I want to find out what they are. And yes, let's move on to films. Starting with romance, I guess. And that is Bewitched. Bewitched is, I think, based on a TV series and kind of animation series, which came out, I think, maybe in the 50s or something. But this is the most recent film, which follows a actor. So he's contracted to remake that sitcom in the present, in this case, 2005. And he insists that he wants to find the perfect Samantha, which is the main character. She's a witch. She's basically like, I guess, a housewife, but because she's a witch, she gets into all sorts of situations. He decides that he wants this specific lady that he sees in a bookstore, I think, one day. He wants her to be the Samantha in his movie. What he doesn't know is that she is actually a witch. I think it's going to be fun. Probably not an amazing movie, but I then want to watch another classic autumnal movie that I've watched. Another one that normally is recommended with this, but I haven't watched this one, and that is You've Got Mail. I've watched When Harry Met Sally, but I haven't watched You've Got Mail. Can you believe it? So this is the year that I'm watching You've Got Mail. Follows a businesswoman that owns a bookshop, an independent bookshop in New York. And she loves spending time in chat rooms. I guess she loves speaking with this person in particular, which she doesn't know is actually trying to open a chain of bookshops right in front, or like on the other side of the street, of her independent bookstore. And throughout the movie, she's falling in love with this guy online and having this rivalry in real life with him. And I'm very excited to watch it, as I know it's such a staple autumnal movie to watch. Just in case you're interested, I really enjoyed Harry Met Sally, and I also highly recommend. I then have the Dead Poets Society, because honestly, this is because I haven't watched it. This is set in 1959. A guy begins his junior year at a private academy for boys in Vermont. There's this new teacher that's also an alumni of this school that has a very different teaching strategy and dynamic with his students than the normal teacher in this school. And you just follow their lives as they're learning a lot of new things from this teacher and how that affects their personal lives. And yeah, you follow a few students from this class and the teacher. I know it's a classic, it's a very good movie, and yeah, I just want to check that, make sure I've watched it, and I know I'll probably enjoy it because I do enjoy academia setting. So yeah, moving on. The next one I have on my list is An Inspector Calls, the 2015 film. So this is based off a book, I think a play. One of my favorite genres is historical mysteries. It was a TV film that came out in 2015, and this film is set in 1912 at a dinner party to celebrate an engagement of one of daughters of this wealthy family. And in the middle of dinner, someone knocks on the door. It's the inspector. And he has come to investigate the recent suicide of a young local girl to this estate. Technically, they all say they have no idea who this girl is. But then, obviously, there's a lot of secrets and mysteries going on, and the inspector insists in staying and interviewing everyone, and throughout the movie you discover that actually some of them, or all of them, definitely have something to do with this. After that, I have to talk about the new Haunting in Venice, which I'm very excited and very scared of. In case you haven't heard, Agatha Christie's Halloween Party is being adapted into a movie. It's the next installment in the Poirot mysteries that have been coming out as films recently. We've had The Murder on the Orient Express, we've had Death in Denial, and now we have Haunting in Venice. And it sounds creepy, it sounds scary, I'm excited. This is set in post-World War II Venice. Poirot is now retired, reluctantly is convinced to attend a seance, and from then stuff happens. I think there's this friend of Poirot that has been going to different seances to discredit them, and has heard of this person that everyone believes is a real medium, and so she invites Poirot to come with her and prove that she's not. But it honestly looks like it's very real, so we'll see if he's able to discredit her. Another movie that I want to watch is Night Books. I think it came out last year or 2 years ago, and I haven't watched it yet. It's about a little boy that loves horror stories, and he has had a recent traumatic experience, I think. And one day he stumbles upon an open apartment that looks like a giant library. There's something going on a TV that he really enjoys, and an uneaten slice of pumpkin pie in front of it. So he kind of steps into this apartment, maybe eats a bit of the pie, falls asleep, and wakes up and isn't able to exit the apartment. But basically he's trapped by a witch in this apartment, and he's going to die unless he tells her horror stories to her every night. It sounds intriguing, it was adapted from a book, and it sounds great for autumn and Halloween time. And lastly, I have Wolfwalkers by this animation studio that I've watched a few things from, and they're just amazing. Super whimsical. The animation style is beautiful. I mean, out of this world beautiful. The stories are just kind of fairy tale-esque and romantic and just super heartwarming. Wolfwalkers itself is about a girl that's training to be a hunter, and she moves to this tiny town with her dad and ends up meeting a wild girl in the woods. Start becoming friends, they explore. Girl and her dad are there specifically to kind of kill this wolf pack that's been terrorizing the towns. But then when she becomes friend with this wild girl, she maybe discovers that the wolf pack are not bad, so she has to, I think, save the pack. I saw the poster and watched the first few seconds of the trailer and I was sold, completely sold. So please go watch it. That is all I have to tell you today. I have shared a lot of books and TV series and movies that I want to watch this autumn. Obviously, this is my personal list, but also a great recommendation list. I will also be posting 2 other videos in this autumn starter pack series. One of multiple recommendations of books and TV series and films that I have watched and can attest that they're great. I then will have a video all about activities and what I like to get up to in autumn and what makes me feel good and what I do to romanticize this season. So please don't forget to subscribe so you can watch those ones when they come out. Leave a comment down below saying what you're gonna get up to in autumn. And I hope to see you here next time. Thank you so much for watching and sticking till the end. And I'll see you next time. Bye!